Good evening.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
can. Good evening, everyone. Dear guests, excellencies, and all colleagues and friends, good evening from Baghdad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's my honor, on behalf of His Excellency Dr. Abdul Hussein Al Musawi, the new Minister of the Ministry of Health of Iraq, to open this official side event of the 79th World Health Assembly in Geneva, dedicated to radiation and health, shaping tomorrow's framework for protection, preparedness, and response. As you be aware, Iraq, together with Egypt, led the preparation of the draft resolution, Radiation and Health, Strengthening Global Protection, Preparedness, and Response. I would like to express our sincere appreciation to Egypt, and especially for Dr. Mohammed Fawzi and his team, to its valuable support, as well as to all countries that have kindly co-sponsored the draft resolution, namely Armenia, Chile, Palestine, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Thailand, and Tunisia. This resolution is both timely and necessary, given the challenging geopolitical context facing our region and the world today. We therefore working forward to its adoption by the Assembly later in this week. Radiation technology are integral to modern life, underpinning critical sectors such as healthcare, energy, industries, and communication. While such technology offer immense benefit for society, they also pose a health risk when not properly used or managed. Gaps in awareness, policy, and capacity related to radiation technologies and in managing associated high health risk continue to give rise to public health concern involving both ionizing and non-ionizing radiation. Scientific evidence shows that many radiation-related health risks arise from the environmental exposure, including radon gas, major causes of the lung cancer, ultraviolet solar radiation, leading causes of the skin cancer. Yet, the risk often receive insufficient attention in the public health strategies and are not widely understood by the general public. Addressing these risks requires sustained awareness, effective monitoring, and coordinated action. In this regard, the role of the WHO is crucial in supporting member states to develop national strategies, strengthening legislation, and establishing a necessary structure and resources, not only to mitigate risk, but also to promote the many social benefit of the radiation application. The proposed resolution on the radiation and health aims to empower member states in one, to integrate the radiation protection into broader environmental health and non-communicable disease prevention effort, and secondly, to integrate the public health sector into the comprehensive emergency preparedness and response framework. And as you know, we're all in the Middle East now facing a different risks due to the military actions in our regions, and we have many nuclear and radiological facilities in the region, and it is under danger. Achieving this object will require close cooperation and collaboration with the International Atomic Energy Agency and the WHO and another international organization and the bodies with specialized expertise in those fields. Let me conclude by expressing my sincere appreciation On behalf of His Excellency Mr. Abdul Hussein Aziz Al Musawi, and on behalf of my country, the Iraq, to all those who contributed to the development of this resolution for the benefit of the patient, workers, and public at large. And I wish you a productive discussion and successful side event. I would like finally to extend my thanks to the team of Dr. Emily and Dr. Farid and our mission in the Geneva. And on the top is the Mr. Ambassador Al Barzani. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, with Your Excellency, Dr. Barzani, Permanent Representative of Iraq to the United Nations Office in Geneva, Excellency, Minister of Iraq, and on behalf of Minister of Health Iraq, and on behalf of His Excellency Professor Dr. Khaled Abdel Ghaffar, Minister of Health of Egypt, I would like to give this opening statement. Honorary Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished representatives of the World Health Organization and the International Atomic Energy Agency, esteemed delegates, colleagues, and partners. It's a great honor to welcome you today to this high-level dialogue on radiation and health. We gather at a defining moment where the intersection between radiation and public health is becoming increasingly central to the future of global health systems, sustainable development, technological advancement, and international resilience. What was once considered a highly specialized scientific domain has now emerged as a strategic global priority that directly impacts healthcare delivery, environmental protection, occupational safety, emergency preparedness, innovation, and human security. Egypt highly values the leadership of the WHO in advancing the Radiation and Health Agency and recognizes the vital contribution of the International Atomic Energy Agency and all international region partners whose expertise and collaboration continue to strengthen global efforts in radiation protection and health security. Today's dialogue reflects our collective understanding that the future of radiation safety cannot be addressed through fragmented approaches. It requires coordinated international action, evidence-based policy, scientific cooperation, strong regulatory frameworks, and sustained investment in preparedness, protection, and health system resilience. Excellencies, radiation is woven into the invisible infrastructure in the modern civilization, shaping how our societies heal, communicate, travel, innovate, produce energy, and understand the world around them. Its applications now extend across diagnostic imaging, radiotherapy, nuclear medicine, telecommunications, industry, transportation, scientific research, and environmental monitoring, making it a foundational force beyond contemporary life. Simultaneously, the rapid expansion of healthcare technologies has led to an unprecedented rise in the use of diagnostic imaging, radiotherapy, and other radiation-based medical applications worldwide. These advances have revolutionized modern medicine, significantly improving disease detection, treatment outcomes, and patient survival. Yet the growing scale and complexity of radiation use also demand stronger governance, rigorous protection frameworks, and sustained international coordination to minimize avoidable risks to patients, healthcare workers, communities, and the environment. Without such safeguards, radiation exposure may contribute to serious health consequences, including cancer, cataracts, radiation injuries, cardiovascular effects, and the psychosocial impacts associated with radiological emergencies. Therefore, the question before us is no longer whether we should strengthen radiation protection systems, but whether we can afford the consequences of failing to do so. In an era defined by accelerating technological advancement and growth global risks, robust radiation protection has become an indispensable pillar of health security, national preparedness, and sustainable development. Distinguished guests, for over 6 decades, the Egyptian Atomic Energy Authority has served as the foundation of our nation's peaceful nuclear program, managing a sophisticated infrastructure that includes 2 research reactors, a fuel manufacturing pilot plant, and specialized facilities for radioisotope production and gamma irradiation. While the regulatory landscape was modernized through the registration reform that facilitated the formal separation of ENRA in July 2021 to ensure independent oversight, which is the Egyptian Nuclear and Radiological Regulatory Authority. We are standardizing healthcare quality by implementing the General Authority for Healthcare Accreditation and Regulations National Accreditation Standards, specially tailored to align clinical practice with the Universal Health Insurance Initiative. And these standards mandate strict compliance with the national safety requirements, ensuring safe diagnostic imaging through mandated dose monitoring and evidence-based protocols that minimize radiological hazards to every patient. Excellencies, the current geopolitical landscape combined with rapid technological transformation, industrial expansion, and evolving environmental challenges has reinforced the urgent need for stronger preparedness and response mechanisms for radiological and nuclear emergencies. And definitely, no nation can address these challenges alone. We all recognize that the future will be increasingly shaped by digital transformation and artificial intelligence. AI-supported imaging optimization, predictive analytic, automated quality assurance, radiation dose monitoring systems, and digital health technologies offer tremendous opportunities to improve efficiency, safety, accessibility, and healthcare quality. Egypt remains fully committed to supporting international cooperation and sharing experiences in advancing radiation safety, public health protection, preparedness, and sustainable healthcare development. Thank you, and I wish you all a productive and impactful discussion.
Thank you, and we extend our gratitude to both Ministers of Health in Iraq and Egypt, and to Dr. Muhammad Fawzi for his speech. Now the floor is for Sir Jeremy Farrar, Assistant Director General for Health Promotion, Diseases Prevention and Care, WHO. Please.
So thanks very, very much indeed, and for those opening remarks, and to pay tribute here to both Iraq and to Egypt, because this year's resolutions coming to the World Health Assembly were quite tough to negotiate, should I say. And we've worked very, very closely with both Iraq and with Egypt on both this and actually some others on rare diseases with Egypt. And thank you for your leadership. WHO sometimes thinks there may be too many resolutions, but these two, and particularly this one, I think is incredibly timely. So we are hugely supportive of it, and thank you for pushing the organisation in some ways to make sure this happens. Thank you very much indeed. As we've heard, and it was also very nice to be reminded of the ancient history of Mesopotamia and the Nile Valley. I've visited Egypt many times, but not yet had an invitation to Iraq. But maybe that will change. We've heard how radiation affects all parts of our lives, from energy to healthcare to transport to education, every single aspect. And yet, so much of it actually is in the shadows. Is the truth of it. We assume it works. It's like not knowing how your car engine works because you don't lift the bonnet. It just works for you. We cannot, in the modern world, just assume that's true. And I think that's why this resolution, and I'll come to our partnerships in a second, are just so critical. And obviously, I have to say it, but also at this particular moment where conflict is so widespread, there is the risk of peaceful, but there is also, we have to appreciate, the risk of non-peaceful. And so the need for this is timely, and the need for this is urgent. So again, thank you very much for pushing this agenda through. And that issue of radiation in all of our lives, my prediction, for what it's worth, would be it's only going to increase as technology advances. Although we may wish in whether it's in life sciences or health or energy or any other aspect, that our use of radiation is going to get less. I don't believe that to be true. In fact, I think it's going to be extended in the future. And of course, we have the natural radiation, which will always be with us and has been with us for millennium. So in other words, if those of you looking for a quiet life, you're not going to find it, I'm afraid, because the work is only going to increase. And the critical aspect of that is what matters every day. Of course, we're talking a lot about emergencies at the moment and the emergency responses, but you cannot have an emergency response unless your day-to-day functions are functioning. That the skills and expertise is present, that the regulatory environment is right, that the laws of countries and jurisdictions are there in place in order to protect people. You cannot just think you'll have those when an emergency comes. And so preparing all of our member states and those of our partners to appreciate the critical importance of this, I think, is absolutely critical. I would like here to pay tribute to our partners. I was going to say our partners in crime, but it's not our partners in crime. And just to make an announcement, and I hope you don't mind me making this free, but we've just, on the margins of this gathering, agreed that we would get together in October, I believe, in Vienna, tied, I hope, with something at the Opera House, so that IEA and WHO, and we would welcome, I think, the work with our other partners at ILO and UNCLEAR to come together to work out how across, again, the UN agency system, we can also work more closely together, because many of you will have heard of the UN 80 reforms. It is absolutely critical that as those reforms go forward, in the pace they do, that we make sure that nothing falls between the cracks. And that can sometimes happen in governments. It can sometimes happen amongst UN agencies. And I think what I would like to see is we collectively would get together as needed, but maybe strategically twice a year, to think how we can support all member states through our different agencies. So that's a commitment I think we've both made, and I look forward to visiting Vienna in October. And you can say that in many ways this came out of the catalyst that the resolution through Iraq and Egypt have given us. So thank you for that. It is, as you said it, I wrote it down as you were saying it, no longer a question of whether we should do this or could do this. It's crucial to do it. And the urgency is now. And the resolution commits us to looking at a mapping of where we are, and that will also be part of our discussions in Vienna. Lastly, just on the internal, I don't want to bore you with the bureaucracies and others of WHO, but you all know that WHO went through a difficult year in 2025, and we've reduced significantly. Just make an absolute unambiguous commitment that this area of work will continue in partnership with our colleagues, but we will not let the restructuring and downsizing of the organization, because there are certain core mandates which are central to our work, and this is one of them. And so whilst you may hear in the newspapers or rumors of downsizing and things being, we commit to continuing our work in partnership with our colleagues in other agencies and with member states, so that we will not drop this. And finally, I'm new to this area. My background's in neurology and infectious diseases. Just pay huge tribute to the team at WHO. Of course, Rudiger's here, Emily's here, Zanat's here, and others. But as going through the last year has been painful for them as well, difficult. And their professionalism and commitment has been absolutely extraordinary. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for hosting us here. And you are always welcome to come to Iraq in any time. Now, the floor is to Madame Karine Hervieux, Deputy Director General for Health Promotion, Disease Preventions and Care in the IAEA. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm at the head of the Department for Nuclear Safety and Security in the agency. So many fields of collaboration already with the WHO on specifically emergencies, but also radiation safety. And one of the other departments in the IA is about nuclear application, and there is also many relationship with WHO. WHO. So it's a pleasure to address this important event and reflect on the strong and long-standing partnership between the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and the World Health Organization. This cooperation is built on a shared commitment to protect people and the environment from the effects of ionizing radiation, while ensuring its benefits, particularly in medicine, are used safely, securely, and responsibly. Our partnership is perhaps more visible and most impactful in the development of international safety standards. Together, WHO and IAEA co-sponsored the International Basic Safety Standard, TSR Part 3, which remains a global benchmark for radiation protection and safety. This foundational work reflects our joint leadership in setting expectations that guide member states worldwide. In addition, WHO, alongside other international and regional organizations, co-sponsors the IAEA safety standards on emergency preparedness and response. These standards reflect a broad international consensus and serve as a global reference for protecting people and the environment, including through the application of protection strategies, generic criteria, and operational intervention level to guide decisions on protective measures. Another particular area of cooperation is radiation protection in medicine. And together we have co-sponsored several major international conferences, including those held in Bonn and Vienna, bringing together global experts to strengthen radiation protection in medical practice. In 2012, Bonn Conference led to the landmark Bonn Call for Action, issued jointly by WHO and the IAEA, which continues to shape policies and practices worldwide. Building on this legacy, a new initiative, tentatively referred to as the Bonn Plus Call for Action, is now under development, reflecting our continued commitment to progress in this field. In this framework, WHO has contributed to and co-sponsored key publications, including the IAEA Safety Guide on Radiation Protection in Medical Uses of Ionizing Radiation, as well as more recent work on education and training to ensure the competence of professionals in this critical area. Topics such as safety culture in medical uses of radiation, justification of medical exposure, ethics in radiation protection, and effective risk communication, particularly in pediatric imaging, demonstrate the breadth and relevance of our cooperation. Through the joint emergency management plan of the international organizations coordinated by the IAEA, we ensure also a common, well-stated framework for international action in nuclear and radiological emergency. WHO plays an active role in these efforts already, including through participation in large-scale exercises like the CONVEX-3 exercise. The last one was held in Romania last year, strengthening global readiness. At the same time, the IAEA and WHO continue to work closely on monitoring evolving situations worldwide. You mentioned it already, sharing information and assessing potential impact. Beyond medical exposure, our partnership also addresses occupational radiation protection, and WHO is actively involved already in the revision of guidance on health surveillance for workers exposed to ionizing radiation, ensuring that occupational health practices keep pace with evolving standards and scientific understanding. What distinguishes the IAEA-WHO partnership is not only its scope, but its impact. Together, we connect science with policy and standards with practice. We support member states in translating guidance to action that directly contributes to the protection of patients, workers, and the public from harmful effects of ionizing radiation. As technologies evolve and the use of radiation in medicine continues to expand, our collaboration will remain essential. The challenges ahead, ranging from workforce capacity to risk communication, require coordinated international responses. In this context, the partnership between the IAEA and WHO stands as a model of effective multilateral cooperation, grounded in expertise, strengthened by trust, and focused on delivering tangible benefits for people everywhere. Let us continue to robustly build on this solid foundation, working together to ensure that radiation is used safely, responsibly, and for the greatest good. Thank you.
Thank you, Madame Hervieux. That's showing the complementarity between all the international capitals, especially between Geneva, Vienna, and Nairobi in this matter. Thank you very much. I think the connection with Baghdad is not here, so we will pass now. Then we will go back to Professor Al-Husseini. To Dr. Emily van Deventer, Head of Chemicals, Radiation and Health Unit, WHO, and Dr. Zanat Kenbayev, Scientist, Chemical, Radiation and Health Unit, WHO. Please.
Thank you. Do we have the slides, maybe?
No.
So this short presentation is really to set the scene and to show you a little bit what we do in WHO. Thank you. Yeah. So good evening, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Emily van Deventer, and as the head of the unit on radiation and chemicals, I'm very pleased to describe to you what we do in terms of radiation and public health, and also to discuss a little bit a resolution that has been recommended by the Executive Board 158 last February for adoption in this week's World Health Assembly, and that will be discussed in Committee A under the section 15.2 later this week. This very much represents the first comprehensive WHO resolution on radiation and health. And I will speak about this resolution, which is very much from a public health perspective. Next. So here, that may remind you a little bit about your physics classes in high school, but this is the radiation spectrum. And you can see here on the left-hand side is 0 hertz, so static fields, magnets used in, for example, MRI, magnetic resonance imaging equipment, medical equipment. And you see the spectrum going through up to the visible spectrum with many different applications. And that part of the spectrum is called non-ionizing radiation. When you go beyond optical radiation, so beyond UV, ultraviolet radiation, you get into the ionizing part of the spectrum, and another set of major applications are used. So first, maybe I can mention, since we are the health agency, the fact that radiation is essential in modern medicine. And it brings, of course, enormous benefits, as we just heard. But the exposures are increasing, not so much in terms of doses, but in terms of the use, both for diagnosis and for treatment, especially radiotherapy. And in this context, we see emerging challenges that comes from new technological changes. For example, how can AI, artificial intelligence, or digital clinical trials, or new hybrid technologies, including both ionizing and non-ionizing part of the spectrum, can be integrated safely, but also ethically in medicine? Another application or source of radiation is, as was mentioned by Jeremy, natural sources of radiation. And these are by far our biggest burden of disease and mortality. When you think from an ionizing radiation perspective, We know that radon is a leading cause of lung cancer. From a non-ionizing radiation perspective, we know that ultraviolet radiation is the main driver for skin cancer. And this we can measure, and we can put a mortality rate to it. Now, another topic that we work on very much, and it was already alluded to, is the radiation emergency preparedness and response. And given the current geopolitical tensions, the military conflicts, the attacks that we've seen, we have renewed urgencies to concentrate in that area as well. But through all these areas, one message is actually consistent. Many radiation-related health risks are actually preventable through effective protection, through evidence-based policies, and through clear communication with the public. All of this, of course, requires strong leadership from the ministries of health and close coordination across the different sectors. And most countries have the mandate given to other sectors to deal with radiation, not necessarily the health sector. So we have competent authorities dealing with radiation safety, often outside of the health sector. And this is why it's so important that today we have IAEA with us, we have ILO, and we have a number of other authorities that are here represented. So if we go to the next slide, maybe. I wanted to share with you some of the challenges that we see, because despite decades of progress and work in this area, we see that the capacity is actually uneven across countries. In regulation, legislation, in monitoring, in expertise, but also in access to modern technologies that are using radiation sources. Also, radiation protection is often not well integrated in health systems in various countries. And there are important health workforce gaps that we see, particularly in low and middle income countries. And importantly, I think that the awareness and the risk communication need to be strengthened, both for professionals, but also for the public. And so these gaps really translate into inequities in protection and in access. Next slide. Thank you. So here is a very small appetizer as to what WHO does in this area. And of course, as our mandate shows, we are very much a normative organization. We have been working in the area of radiation for over 70 years. And you will hear after my presentation, the presentation of the International Commission on Radiological Protection. This is a commission that has worked with WHO in official relations for over 70 years. So that means that we have worked on this topic for at least that long. Radiation is a cross-cutting issue, we've heard that. But our specific role here is to bring a public health perspective, to translate the evidence into health guidance, and to support countries through norms and standards. And of course, our mandate under the international health regulations when it comes to emergencies. This approach is collective and ensures that we can respond when there is a specific situation. So you've heard also that partnerships is really important in this area. And we have and are working with very important partners within the UN system, several of them represented here today, also with scientific and professional bodies. And we're very pleased that the ICRP, ICNIRP, and many other international societies are here with us today. And of course, we work very much with national health authorities and collaborating centers, which is a system that was developed when WHO was established. And we have over 25 collaborating centers across the world helping us in this area, as well as expert networks. And here you will see pictures of the number of documents that we have published with other organizations. So some with IAEA, but also with WMO, with UNEP, with ILO. And for example, just at the bottom right, you see an app on the UV index that is co-branded with UNEP, ILO, and WMO, the World Meteorological Organization, just as an example. Next. Yeah, and the beauty of working together is that we can develop documents that can be implemented by different ministries and different sectors. So I leave the floor now to my colleague, Janat Kembayeva, who works on the area of emergency preparedness and response.
Shukran Jazira. Dear colleagues, my name is Janat. It is my honor to say a few words about our work in this area, in specific area of emergency preparedness and response. Radiological and nuclear emergencies are low probability but high impact events. Their nature is constantly evolving. It is no longer a singular hazard isolated event, but goes in parallel with other types of emergencies, as we have seen recently, such as natural disasters, pandemics, or military conflicts. Radiation emergencies place pressure on health system and demand a coordinated and technically sound public health action. Regardless of the nature of the event, WHO's mandate in emergency is to protect health, to provide authoritative guidance, and to support our member states in strengthening preparedness and response capacities of the health sector. A central part of this work is carried out through the International Health Regulations, IHR 2005. WHO helps countries to build and sustain radiation-related core capacities and ensures that health emergency notifications flow quickly and reliably through IHR national focal points during emergencies. Through our global expert network called Radiation Emergency Medical Preparedness and Assistance Network, or REMPAN, WHO provides global technical leadership, coordinating clinical guidance, development, surge support, and capacity building for medical and public health response to this type of emergencies. And through the Interagency Committee for Radiological and Nuclear Emergencies, WHO contributes to a harmonized UN system response, working closely with IAEA colleagues under the Early Notification and Assistance Conventions. Our work is grounded in evidence from major events, from Chernobyl, which taught us critical lessons on managing acute radiation injuries, thyroid cancer prevention, and psychosocial support, to Fukushima, which strengthened global approaches to risk communication and protection to vulnerable groups. Today, ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and in the Middle East destabilize the regions and affect healthcare facilities, put at risk lives and health of civil populations and health workers, but also increase risk of radiation emergencies and underscore the need for coordinated preparedness. In this context, WHO promotes integration of radiation emergencies preparedness plans into all hazard frameworks, supports countries in meeting IHR obligations and building national health sector capacity to respond to such emergencies. We do that through provision of evidence-based policies on public health and medical response, education, and training. WHO reinforces and strengthens collaboration with partners for coherent health-focused response. In short, WHO's role is to ensure that when radiation emergencies occur, health systems are ready, informed, coordinated, and capable of protecting lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Emily van Deventer, for your support and for what you did for this event to be done and for the resolution. Thank you, Ms. Janet, for your interesting remarks. Now the floor is going to Professor Werner Ruhem, Chair ICRP, and Professor Akimas Hirata, Chair of ICN-IRP.